Texas basketball comes up with 2 big victories. We've got some Super Bowl prop bets, but most importantly, Super Bowl predictions. All that and more coming up on the 1-0 Sports Show.
Texas finally 1-0, finally riding for the brand, although Tom Herman did say they were 1-0 10 times last season.
Feinbaum, I'll give him like half a point. Dude,
you like okay. Feinbaum way too much.
Yeah, all right. I'm like I'm the Feinbaum of the show.
By the way, that looks Ohio State. Is that an omen? Give me that Longhorn hat.
Oh man!
Hook him, baby.
All right, he's pulling the torso.
Welcome in on this Friday morning to the 1-0 Sports Show. I'm Adam Ogburn, joined by Olivia Guzman this morning. Olivia, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Ready to talk some Super Bowl. I'm really excited.
Yeah, we've got a loaded show. Texas basketball, we're going to start off with that, and then we've got a lot of Super Bowl content to come, so it should be fun. We'll have the predictions from all of the TSTV crew coming up at the end of the show, so you will want to stay tuned for that. But before we get to that, we have to start how every 1-0 sports show starts, and that's with who's hot and who's not. So let's start with you. Who's hot for you?
Well, I know we said we were going to start with Texas basketball, but I'm going to jump right into the Super Bowl. I think the Bengals are the team that's hot right now. They're young, they're hungry, there's a lot of talent on that team. I think that no one can deny Joe Burrow. He's been on a roll. People have doubted them 3 weeks ago that they were done, and they've just continued to get more and more momentum. So in my eyes, they're who's hot right now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you definitely earn that recognition when you knock off the Titans, the #1 seed, and the Chiefs, arguably the most prolific offense in the NFL in back-to-back weeks.
Right. They haven't had a tough round, but, they've proven to be on fire. So I'm excited to see what will happen.
For sure. I'm actually going to jump back to Texas basketball. That's my who's hot for this week. I mean, Monday night at the Irwin Center was insane. I mean, Chris Beard has revived this program. He's revived the energy around this program on campus. Timmy Allen rising to the occasion against Kansas, a season-high 24 points, a clutch shot with about 25 seconds left. Trey Mitchell dominated in the paint in the first half. He had 12 of his 17 points in the first half, and he had a huge banked three with just under a minute to go. Courtney Ramey scored all 7 of his points in the second half. He Texas found ways to score when Ramey wasn't necessarily putting the ball in the bucket. So this Texas team, we'll see. It feels like a lot of the times this year has been one step forward and then a step back. They've been really good at the Irwin Center, but now the next question is, can they keep that momentum going when they go up to Waco tomorrow? We will have to wait and see.
They're looking good. They've got a tough road ahead, arguably one of the most toughest schedules coming up in college basketball. But if they continue to play the way that they've been playing, especially this last game against Kansas, I think that going against Baylor, they're going to play Tech again. I think that they might be able to pull out on top.
I mean, the Big 12 is loaded. There is no easy day in the Big 12. Now let's go to the flip side of things from who's hot. Now it's time to go to who's not. So Olivia, who's not hot for you?
Sticking with the NFL, the Texans. As a long Houston fan, born and raised, Texans are just always not it. Whenever we get a new coaching hire, some people might say they're excited. I have not had much hype about this new coach. People's careers go to the Houston Texans to die. You can look at people that have come in, left, and been super successful. So they're not hot. I don't know when they ever will be hot. I hope we can turn it around one day, but right now they are just a constant who's not in my eyes.
Yeah, as a fellow Houstonian, they are pretty much a flaming heap of garbage right now. It's been that way the past couple of years, ever since they blew a 24-0 lead against the Chiefs. It's pretty much been all downhill from there, and I think you could maybe make an argument that they might be the most incompetent franchise in the NFL after this past hiring cycle.
Without a doubt.
For my who's not, I'm going to take it back to men's basketball, kind of maybe more of a niche story. How about the Horizon League? There's my who's not. It came out this week. It's University of Illinois Chicago, who's actually coached by a former Texas assistant. It announced 2 weeks ago that it would be joining the Missouri Valley Conference this summer. Now 2 weeks later, just a couple days ago, the Horizon League came out and said in response to that move, it's banning all Illinois Chicago teams from postseason conference tournaments, which denies them a chance to earn an automatic bid to the NCAA tournaments. It denies 13 out of UIC sports. It denies 200 athletes the chance to play in those conference tournaments. So it's just kind of one of those things where let the kids play. They weren't the ones who decided to switch conferences and stuff, and especially this late on into the winter sports, it just seems like a really, really cruel kind of message to send that, you know, you have these higher ups making the decisions, and you have these players now who are, you know, 7-8 games away from getting the conference tournament, and suddenly they've had that stolen from them because of a business decision up top.
I think it's a shame. I think this is why business decisions need to be made in the off season, because ultimately the people that get screwed over are the players. Yes, fans are upset because their teams aren't getting to go, but it's really those athletes that are getting punished by these decisions.
Yeah, they only get 4 years at it, and so it's kind of cruel to take one of those opportunities to play in postseason competition away from them.
Especially after the past climate with COVID, how many of these athletes have had already 2 seasons not been normal, so now to have either their 3rd season or maybe their final season taken away from them is just a real shame for some of these players.
Yeah, for sure. So Horizon League, definitely we do not approve. So, but let's go from who's hot to who's not to what's trending. We've talked a lot about the NFL already. Olivia, you have. Let's jump back to it. So the Texans and Saints finishing out the hiring cycle, hiring Lovie Smith and Dennis Allen respectively, who were both of their defensive coordinators last year, so they promoted within. So out of the whole NFL hiring cycle this offseason, Olivia, who do you think had the best hire and who do you think had the worst hire in your eyes?
Well, the Texans are a bad organization. The Saints are not. The Saints, Drew Brees left, so or retired, so now they're in rebuilding mode. I think being coached under Sean Payton, being taught under him, he obviously has the advantage. I think if you look just previous Texans versus Saints, the last time that the Texans and the Saints both needed to hire a head coach at the same time, the Texans hired Gary Kubiak, the Saints hired Sean Payton, and everyone knows how history played out that way. So I think in general, the Saints have a better organization when it comes to picking head coaches, and if this, you know, Sean Payton's big shoes to fill, and if they feel that this is the guy for the job, then I trust them. The Texans, they have not had a guy do good at the job, so it's still recovery mode and trying to figure out what's good and what's going to work, and maybe it is Lovie, but you know, I'm not super confident in that.
Yeah, I think it's just a further kind of, you know, kick to David Coley, because I mean, you've seen after they fired Coley, Nick Casteria, their GM, has been, you know, really high on praise for, you know, what he did, kind of the foundation he built. And so then you fire him, and you think if they fire him, you know, 3 weeks ago, and then they hire the defensive coordinator just kind of out of the blue, you know that wasn't their original plan. I think it was probably either Brian Flores or Josh McCown who they were kind of looking at, and then Flores' lawsuit kind of threw that, you know, to the curb, and so they end up going with Lovie Smith. So Texans definitely, I think, the worst hire of the whole cycle. I just don't think there was any need to fire Coley if you're just going to promote Lovie Smith, especially when honestly Coley overperformed with what he was given with. I mean, I don't think many people expected the Texans to get 4 wins this year. Elsewhere in the cycle, I do like the Giants hiring Brian Daboll. The Bills averaged 29 points per game. Josh Allen really developed under him. Daboll was the Bills' offensive coordinator, and so as incompetent as the Giants are, they needed kind of maybe some offensive injection. So we'll see what Daboll can do with Saquon Barkley, see if he can get anything out of Daniel Jones. But let's stay in the NFL with one of the topics that seems to come up at this time of year every year, and it's how to fix the Pro Bowl. I mean, it's basically touch football and pads out there. Olivia, you know, is there a solution to this? Does it need to be eliminated? What should the Pro Bowl look like going forward?
The Pro Bowl is grown-up playtime for these guys. You got a bunch of the top, it's the Pro Bowl, the top pro athletes in the NFL that just come, and I don't think any of them take it seriously, which that translates on the field. I think that surely from an NFL media standpoint, the views are going down. No one's really caring. I think that something that I found really interesting during the week, you know, they had these position competitions. You had the tic-tac-toe kickoff, other ones that I can name, but I think they really needed to highlight those things because the game itself is almost a joke. I think if you either make it flag football where, you know, guys are going a little bit harder because touch football is very elementary.
Yeah.
And I get tackle football. These guys don't want to get hurt.
Yep.
They're, you know, the best of the best coming to have a good time. But maybe flag football, maybe make it 7-on-7, something that's a little bit more dynamic for the fans to watch that also protects them from not getting hurt.
Yeah, I thought about flag football. I think that could be a solution. I'd be interested to see how it would play out if there was still kind of that cautiousness of, you know, do I get hurt? You know, if I plant my leg wrong, if I'm going full speed. I'm not sure about flag football, but I totally agree with you with the skill games. I think that's kind of the future of what the Pro Bowl needs to lean to. I know they've played dodgeball. I saw they were doing passing accuracy competitions, different things like that. I think that's where the Pro Bowl really needs to lean to in the coming years. Just have some fun with it. Let the players come out. Get it back to Hawaii. I think the players, it's probably a better idea for it to be in Hawaii than Vegas. Just let them go chill on the beach. Let them kind of go show off their skills, have some fun with it, do some Madden competitions, different things like that. I think that's kind of the future from it because this touch football and patch just isn't work yet. And I think I would guess, I haven't seen the stats, but I would guess viewership is dropping off. It seems like it gets, you know, less and less kind of effort each year, which makes sense again, the injuries, but I think definitely those skills competitions, that needs to be the future of the Pro Bowl. Let's flip it over to the NBA trade deadline. Definitely a busy week in the NBA. So Olivia, for you, which NBA team do you think won the trade deadline?
I think the 46ers did. Philadelphia. I think that Bill Simmons, you know, he didn't play all season, so they really didn't lose anything by letting him go. You know, the organization essentially stayed the same, and they gained James Harden, and I think that, if anything, that's a huge win. I know that he hasn't had the best past couple of seasons, but he's still James Harden. He's still, in my eyes, the guy, and I think that's a huge win for the 46ers, and they didn't really lose anything letting him go.
Yeah, for sure. I think that trade's interesting. I think the Nets actually did a pretty good job on it too, because you get a disgruntled James Harden and all his money out of there, and then you have Ben Simmons who will now actually show up and play instead of taking, you know, fine after fine after fine. You have Seth Curry, who's another good shooter, which is good because Joe Harris has been banged out for the Nets, excuse me, not the Knicks. And then Andre Drummond, who, you know, he's really good with the Pistons. Can he maybe resurrect his career a little bit in Brooklyn? We shall see. Another team who I think of note is the Cavaliers. Went out and traded for Karis LeVert this past weekend. They got their business done early in the window, and then they just kind of sat there at the deadline to watch their Eastern Conference foes like the Nets and the 76ers kind of scramble. So credit to the Cavs for getting out in front of it. That Nets 76ers deal, I think both teams feel like they got some positives taken away from it. So it'll be interesting, you know, looking back on that in a year or two, you know, is it, you know, James Harden, you know, replacing Ben Simmons and kind of, you know, giving the 76ers another weapon, or is it, you know, the Nets getting rid of Harden's salary and having Ben Simmons being actually willing to play for the team that he's with?
Right, I think, in my eyes, both teams won that deal. Neither one of them took a big loss. You know, one team got rid of a player worth a lot of money, and the other team got rid of a player that did nothing for them this past season. So, and both of them gained great players. So that was a win-win in my eyes.
Especially because neither player wanted to be with the team they were originally with.
Exactly. So everyone's happy.
There you go. Well, that will do it for our first block. When we come back after the break, it's time for some verses. Me and Olivia will be bringing the best highlight clips from the past week and the football season, and we'll have Carter Yates on to judge. You won't want to miss it. You're watching the 1-0 Sports Show. Welcome back into the 1-0 Sports Show, now joined by Carter Yates here at the desk. Carter, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, Adam. I'm trying to soak in the last few days of football season. Excited for a great weekend. Excited to be on the 1-0 Sports Show this morning.
I know. What are we going to do with ourselves once football season ends? At least we got March Madness coming up. But let's get right into the top highlights of the week, basically how Versus works. Me and Olivia each bring a play from the category as designated, and Carter will get to judge which play he thinks fits the category better. So let's start off with Olivia. What did you bring for the best dunk?
The best dunk, I have Andrew Jones when he got a breakaway dunk versus Kansas. Big game for UT, and I think, anytime you can dunk on the #1 team in the Big 12 is a good day.
Yeah, for sure. I think one thing that Texas really did well in that game was force turnovers, and it created those fast break opportunities just like that. For me, I'm going to flip over to the SEC for my best dunk. Auburn taking on Georgia. The Tigers barely survived in this ball game, but how about this? Again, another turnover. Auburn breaking. Wendell Green going forward. He's going to go off the backboard. Devin Cambridge. Auburn pulling it off in the game. I mean, you see that stuff in all-star competitions and stuff like that, but to pull it off in the game, I thought it was pretty impressive. So, Carter, what are your thoughts on those two dunks?
Well, as much as I want to give it to the Texas Longhorns, Andrew Jones' dunk was ferocious, but it didn't have a lot of style points, I would say. The off-the-backboard slam is something you could see off NBA Jam. I'm going to give this one to Adam.
Sweet.
That's fair. That's fair.
Hey, we love some Texas highlights, though, and they had plenty on Monday night. Let's flip over to best buzzer beater. Olivia, did you have one to bring, or are you abstaining?
So here's the thing. I was not that impressed. I did not see a buzzer beater that I thought was worthy of this category. So, I will be withdrawing myself from this round, specifically because I do not feel that any choice I had to bring to the table is worthy of having my opinion stamped on it. So.
She's taking John's route from Crossfire. She's going to abstain from the question. I'm actually going to go back to Texas basketball here. This isn't a second half. This isn't a game-winning buzzer beater, but this one coming at the end of the first half of the Texas-Kansas game. Again, another forced Texas turnover against, or Texas forcing Kansas turnover. How about Marcus Carr at full speed, pulling off the three, gave the Longhorns a 5-point halftime lead. So just kind of a good momentum heading into halftime. And man, it got the Frank Erwin Center buzzing. That arena was buzzing all night long.
Yeah, I mean, the shot itself is sick because he goes over 3 defenders on the fast break with the buzzer beater, but also for what it did for the momentum of Texas. They go up by 5 at halftime, and like you said, the Frank Erwin Center, which has gotten a lot better attendance this year, was buzzing, and I think that propelled Texas into the second half and later onto the win.
Yeah, what a big shot there by Marcus Carr. Texas had a couple of big threes in that game. They didn't make a ton, but when they did, they tended to come up big. Now let's flip over. We've looked at some great plays so far. Now let's go to the opposite side. It's time to look at the worst bloopers from the week. Olivia, what do you have for us?
So it's not really a blooper, but this is more of what I would call a cringe-worthy moment, which I'm going to say is a blooper in my eyes. It's the Mac Jones gritty. He should just not have done it. That's all I'm going to say. Has it gone viral for him? Absolutely. But, stick with what you're good at. And in my eyes, this was just not it. Mac Jones is a quarterback, not a dancer.
Yeah, that is your typical kind of Pro Bowl antics that we normally see. Sorry, we're having some technology difficulties. Love the first show of the semester. Yeah, definitely got to love the Pro Bowl. So for my blooper, I'm going to go back to basketball. North Carolina taking on Clemson. Now, the quality of this video isn't the highest, but neither is this flop. Armando Bacot is just going to kind of throw himself to the floor. I'm not sure what he's trying to accomplish there, but he definitely could win an Oscar for that one.
Well, what's so baffling about the flop by Armando Bacot is that how are you even going to call foul? Is he trying to get a flagrant foul or a technical foul? The ball is dead, and the guy is simply trying to get up and run to the other side. Armando Bacot, you're a 6'10" power post player in Division I college basketball. You should not be flopping on that. But honestly, the Mac Jones gritty is pretty baffling as well because that was coined in part by LSU, Mac Jones's rival in college. So I don't understand him hitting the gritty and much less trying to do it when he's not a good dancer. I'm going to give this one to Olivia. Look at the arms flopping to the side there. It does not ooze any sort of swagger whatsoever.
Well, and the worst part, the play was blown dead 60 yards before he did that. It didn't even count. I mean, you clearly hear the whistle. I don't know. I mean, that's the Pro Bowl for you. I don't think you can really say too much else besides welcome to the Pro Bowl.
It's just working against him. He's trying to be like swaggy. It's just any swagger that he had was gone once he did that.
Alrighty, let's move on. Let's go back to some football. We got to savor this last weekend of the NFL for sure. So it's time to go from the best play from the NFL playoffs. Olivia, what do you have for us?
Well, I think that there were so many great plays in the playoffs, but specifically, this was the play that I believe won the game for the Bengals, secured their spot in the Super Bowl. It was the interception by Bell in overtime. I don't know if you were watching the game when the Chiefs won the coin toss. It almost felt like the game was over. The Chiefs, the stadium erupted. They thought they had it, but the game's not over till it's over. And the Bengals defense really showed up. They showed up the entire second half, and they just capitalized it with that interception to, secure that all the Bengals had to do was get a field goal.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree with that. I remember watching on TV, and as soon as that coin flip, it felt like the coin flip determined the game, just especially after the Chiefs-Bills ended the previous week. So definitely a huge defensive play, and like you said, it's pretty much the reason the Bengals are in the Super Bowl right now.
Right.
I'm actually going to go back to the Bills-Chiefs game for my best play. 4th and 13, the Bills are facing 2 minutes left. They were down by 5. This is really, I think, where this game got kind of wild. Josh Allen, he's going to drop back. He's going to throw it. Gabriel Davis looks like he's wide open. It looks like it's just blown coverage by the Chiefs. How do you leave a receiver like that in the back of the end zone? But when you go back to the replay here, it's actually Davis's route running. He's going to absolutely shatter Mike Hughes' ankles right there. He just leaves him for dead. Huge play. I mean, this comes on 4th and 13. This was the last for the Bills. If they didn't get it, this game was pretty much over. So just a pretty big play there for Buffalo to keep it alive, although it did not end up making them victorious in the end.
Well, I think I'm going to have to give this one to the Cincinnati Bengals interception because when that ball is deflected, it comes screaming down at the feet of Von Bell. The quick reflexes to catch that ball are something, and the big winner of that is the NFL because I tell you what, if the Chiefs had gone down and scored on that possession, Twitter would have exploded.
Yep.
So the NFL avoids a huge PR nightmare having to change the overtime rules. I think it was a great play, and I think the Cincinnati Bengals stepped up.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, I'd rather see the Bengals in the Super Bowl too, so I'm all for that. But yeah, I agree because the Twitter was about to explode the week before when the Chiefs beat the Bills with the overtime rules, and if they'd done it back-to-back weeks, Roger Goodell would have had a PR nightmare.
Twitter already exploded. I mean, once the coin toss happened, you saw all the Bills players tweeting pain and deja vu. And so, NFL was already biting their teeth. Once that happened, they were like, we cannot live this again. And they avoided a huge scandal. I think that they are going to have to change the overtime rules, but that conversation can happen a little bit later than they're hoping it.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go. Now let's keep going. In the NFL, it's time for the best game from the entire season. Olivia, what was the best NFL game you think this year?
Well, luckily for fans, the divisional round and the championship round of the NFL is some of the best football that I have seen in a long time, and it is so hard to pick just one game from an entire season. But for me, as a fan, watching the most entertaining game that had me drawn in, crying, cheering, whatever you call it, was the Chiefs-Bills game. That game was just, especially the last 5 minutes, that game just, I think, was one of the most hard-fought games I've ever watched by both teams, and it rolled the Chiefs' way, but I think it could have easily gone the Bills' way, and I think that was the best matchup I have seen in a very long time.
Yeah, that's insane. The Bills literally left 13 seconds on the clock, and Patrick Mahomes was able to get his offense down and get a field goal. That's got to be one of the best playoff games
ever.
Yep, I would totally agree with that. I'm actually going to go back to the regular season for mine. This was a crazy game. It was the final game of the regular season, and you thought this game would kind of be win and you're in, but then the Jaguars beat the Colts, and so suddenly there was this option that maybe they could tie. Could they take kneel downs the whole game? No, they actually play, and then the Chargers and Raiders almost ended up tying. Justin Herbert does a great job. He scores first on 4th and 21. Then he throws a touchdown pass to Mike Williams as time expired. And then we're tied. Both teams could get a field goal in overtime. 35 seconds left. It's tied at 32. And Chargers coach Brandon Staley inexplicably calls a timeout. It allows the Raiders to regroup. They decide, instead of maybe trying to take a kneel down or something like that to avoid a turnover, a blocked field goal, they end up running on 3rd down. They get 10 yards. And then that allows Daniel Carlson to kick a game-winning field goal. Just a wild game, I think, because the country was, unless you were a Steelers fan, the country was united and they wanted a tie. Everyone on Twitter, everyone was cheering for it. And so, you thought it was this improbable outcome, and then suddenly it gets further and further into overtime. You're thinking, is this going to happen? It was just a wild game, and I don't know if there'll be ever anything like that again where this scenario comes up at the end of the NFL season.
Yeah, like you said, Adam, I don't think there'll ever be a time when almost the entire country is rooting for a tie. The almost 20-minute drive, I think, that the Chargers had at the end of regulation to tie the game up. That took about maybe a minute and 30 seconds of actual time. Will forever be etched in my mind, but I've got to give it to Olivia on this one because that Chiefs and Bills game was just showing the future of the AFC for the next decade at the quarterback position. And I got to say, watching Josh Allen mash all the buttons as he's playing, all the video game controller buttons, when he is just running and trucking, and the fact that 13 seconds left, like you said, Patrick Mahomes is able to go down and score and end up winning the game. That's the craziest game I've ever seen, not only this season, but of all time.
Yeah, definitely. I think that one will go down in history. They'll be talking about that decades from now. Just the wild. I mean, the last 2 minutes was just insane in that game, and then going into overtime. We'll see, though. Will that game be maybe the momentum for changing the overtime rules? That is yet to be seen. Carter, thank you for coming on. We'll have you back later in the show to predict everything that we could possibly predict regarding the Super Bowl. Olivia, you actually made the late comeback there, getting the 3-2
I know, and I even bowed out one round. So.
Hey, John's starting a trend, man. You don't like a question, just abstain from it. But anyways, when we come back, Christina Huang from the Daily Texan, she's going to join us and break down everything you need to know about Texas men's basketball ahead of their big game against Baylor tomorrow. Don't go anywhere. You're watching the 1-0 Sports Show. Welcome back into the 1-0 Sports Show. We're now joined by Daily Texan men's basketball reporter Christina Huang. How are you doing, Christina?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. The first time on air?
Yes.
Hey, there we go. We love an on-air debut. But man, we got plenty to celebrate too. What a week for Texas men's basketball. They had a really kind of disappointing defeat to Texas Tech, but they bounced back, had a big win, convincing win against Iowa State, held Iowa State to their lowest points total in a long, long time. I couldn't remember what the exact date was, 30, 40 years. They held the Cyclones to 41, then come out momentous win against Kansas. That went right down to the wire. So, Christina, you cover this team. Kind of what stood out to you in the wins against Iowa State and Kansas?
Yeah, of course. Well, I think that Texas has really proved that they can hang with the big players in the conference. With a win over a blue blood like Kansas, that really shows that they have what it takes to win those really big games. So that was what really stood out to me.
Yeah, awesome. So do you think that this win over Kansas was a turning point for the Texas season, or do you think they haven't had that turning point yet? They already had it. How do you feel that this game really impacts their season and their momentum?
Yeah, I definitely think this could be a turning point. I think whenever we reevaluate the whole season, once everything is over, we could look at the Kansas win as either a fluke or, a sign of better things to come. So I think it is a little too early to kind of really say that it's a turning point, but I really hope that the team is at least, kind of using the momentum to hopefully get a win over Baylor.
Yeah, for sure. And so You know, Texas, the Horns, they're well into conference play, but kind of looking, I guess, even just maybe at this past weekend, the Iowa State and Kansas games, because it really does feel like there's kind of an upswing of momentum right now with these past 2 games. What players have really stood out to you in the past week or so in conference play?
Yeah, I mean, I think Timmy Allen is the most complete player on this roster. He's the most consistent shooter. I think there are multiple guys who can score double digits on any given night, but Timmy has been doing the best at it. Right now, he's in all Big 12 on KenPom college ratings, which is really awesome. He's up there with Ochai Agbaji, James Akinjo, Baylor. So, you know, he's up there with all the greats of this conference. Marcus Carr has actually been doing really well as well. You know, Saturday, that buzzer beater at the end of the first half against Iowa State really gave Texas the momentum to actually win that game.
Absolutely.
And then he did it again against Kansas, so that was also really cool. So he's looking good.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. I mean, because we watched the Kansas highlight last block, but I mean, he did against Iowa State too. And I think Christina, I mean, you could probably say that was a big turning point in that game too, that 3-pointer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, post-game, the Iowa State head coach, TJ Altenberger, he literally said that Marcus Carr's 3 was like the momentum shift in the game. So,
No, those threes,
Yep.
that'll do it. What do you think is the Longhorns' ceiling right now looking forward?
yeah, I think as long as they can shoot better, they'll be just fine. I am not concerned about this team defensively at all. But on Monday against Kansas, they only shot 15% from 3. And I'm sure this team is well aware that they need to be shooting above 20% from 3
Yep.
if they want to actually make a really deep postseason run.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
3-point shooting is so important in March. I mean, that's how I think a lot of times you see those mid-majors. They come in, they have a hot 3-point shooting night, and that's how they knock teams off. Christina, you know, you kind of talked about, you know, how deep do you think this can go in March? How much of a run do you think they can make?
I think they could make it to the Elite 8. I think that's their ceiling right now. I think as the season winds down, maybe that'll change for the better, maybe for the worse. But they just really need to be able to kind of finish out those big games, and it looks like they are finally starting to learn how to.
Well, speaking of big games, this Saturday the Longhorns are going to Waco to play the reigning national champ. So what's key for the Longhorns going into this game? What do they need to do?
Yeah, so tomorrow I will be watching out for LJ Cryer to see if he's going to play. He's Baylor's best 3-point shooter. He's been out the last couple of games with a foot injury. He didn't play earlier this week against Kansas State. But if Cryer's out there on the floor tomorrow, then it's going to be a lot tougher for the Longhorns to win that game. But aside from him, I'm going to be watching for James Akinjo, Adam Flagler. Akinjo is a really great ball handler. He leads the team in assists. And then Flagler was also on the national championship team. He was a great shooter during March Madness. So I'm going to be looking out for him as well. So I think if Texas goes into Waco, you know, does what they can do, you know, executes what they know best, they'll be okay.
Who do you think is the most important player for the Longhorns tomorrow? Who do they need to show up?
I'm going to say Timmy Allen. You know, Timmy Allen is so consistent that I fear if he can't get going, if he can't do what he does best, then the rest of the team might falter a little bit.
So if he's on, if the Longhorns are on, if every best case scenario, like what is your prediction for this game?
I'm going to say Texas wins 80-76. I know all of the, I know ESPN, KenPom, they all disagree with me. But I think if Texas goes in, locks in early, out-rebounds Baylor, turns their defense into offense, they should be okay. It's definitely going to be tight because Waco is a tough environment to play in, and most, if not all, of the teams in the Big 12 have a losing away game record in conference play. So yeah, but I think they can do it.
You think they can outscore Baylor too? Not, you know, because we've seen them win in slugfest, low-scoring games. You think they can outscore Baylor?
Yeah, they just have to out-rebound.
Yep. Well, that is going to be fun to watch. I'm excited for that one tomorrow morning. So, Christina, thank you for coming on. Great on-air debut, and let's hope your predictions for the Longhorns come true.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. Well, when we come back, it's now the most anticipated moment in many American schedules. It's time to go and look at the Super Bowl predictions. We'll have prop bets. Carter will be back on. You won't want to miss it. We're about to go Super Bowl coverage for 2 straight segments. You're watching the One and Only Sports Show. Join the panel for our maybe favorite time of the year, prop bets. These are always fun with the Super Bowl. You just find the most random things that you can bet on, and people do a lot of research into it. So let's get right to it. This one is a classic. I feel it's at every Super Bowl. National anthem length. Are we going to hit over or under 95 seconds? Mickey Guyton performing this year. Olivia, what do you think?
For sure over. 95 seconds is a minute and 35 seconds. Are you kidding me? Even the quickest national anthems are at least 2 minutes. You know, I don't think it's going to go longer than 2 minutes, but there's no way that she's going to hit a minute 35. She's going to have to be going turbo mode to do that.
I'm going to go under. I just feel like Las Vegas is never wrong, I feel like. So if they're putting it 95 seconds, I feel like there's a reason. I actually Googled it. Apparently last year she sung the anthem at the National Memorial Day concert in a minute 25, which I'm not sure how is possible. But I'm going to trust Vegas on this one. They put it at 95, which I thought looked ridiculously low. I'm going to trust them. I'm going to go under. And we'll see how that goes. I hope she sings it in 2 times speed.
Well, I'm gonna side with Olivia here and say it's gonna hit the over. I know last year she hit 87 seconds at that concert, like you mentioned, but she also has said she's working with a creative director to try to bring this country together and send a message during this national anthem. She's got a booming voice. I think that's gonna add some time on the clock and hit over 95 seconds.
I mean, come on, it's the Super Bowl. This is like the biggest stage she will ever perform on. You'd think that she's gonna, you know, she's gonna have more than 95 seconds to soak up her moment.
I don't know. Every time I doubt Vegas, though, they're usually right. So we'll see. That'll be interesting little pregame tidbit to watch. Coin flip, heads or tails? What we got down the line?
Heads.
I'm going tails. I'm
going heads as well. So we'll see how that goes. So as long as it's not an overtime coin flip, I don't like the overtime coin flips anymore. This one maybe was my favorite that I found online. How many commercials will feature a dog? Is it over or under 6.5? And I think I read the average is usually around like 6 or 7. So what are we thinking? Olivia?
I don't want to cry. The dog commercials, it's always the most random companies that they'll just put a dog in and just make you cry. But like, it's for sure going to be over, you know? There's no way it's not. Dogs are the easiest way to get people to remember your commercial.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's over. I mean, America's kind of coming out of the pandemic, still in a pandemic. America needs puppies. I think we're going to get puppies on Super Bowl Sunday.
Hey,
what about you?
You said it, easy recipe. I'm hitting the over.
This is an interesting one. There's been a lot of talk about how porous the Bengals' offensive line is. So will there be a sack before a touchdown? Carter, what do you think?
I think if the Bengals start with the ball first, this is a mortal lock. Look, the Rams' defensive line and the 3 QBs they have played this postseason, they faced the 3rd highest pressure rate or higher in their entire career. Aaron Donald is going to get after Joey Burrow.
I hate to agree with you. You know, Bengals fans wanted it to be the 49ers for this reason. And so if the Bengals start with the ball, I'm hoping it's not 9 sacks, but Joe Burrow's getting sacked. You know, there's just no way he doesn't.
Yeah, I agree there. And, you know, even if the Rams start with the ball, Trey Hendrickson had a good game. Sam Hubbard had a good game against the Chiefs. So I don't think it completely rules everything out, even if the Rams start with the ball. So I'm going to go yes, sack before a touchdown. Next question. What will be the result of the first drive? Olivia, let's start with you.
I think a field goal. I think either team, you know, both offenses are strong, both defenses are strong, but, you know, I think both teams out of the gate are going to come, both offenses out of the gate are going to come out super pumped. Both of these quarterbacks, you know, have chances to break a record or set a precedent in their own respective right. So I think out of the gate, both of them are going to to come down winning the drive. I don't think they're going to be able to take it all the way to, a touchdown, but I think that they're both going to get within field goal range.
Yeah, I've been going back and forth on this one because I think there's going to be plenty of points in this game. I want to say touchdown, but I just feel like, kind of like you said, like everyone's going to be amped up, some jitters and stuff, especially with, the O-line. The D-line is going to be amped up, maybe a sack early on. So I'm going to go punt the result of the first drive, but I think the offenses will settle in pretty quickly.
That's a great pick, Adam. Look, football players are human beings. The Super Bowl is the biggest stage. Like you said, they're going to have some jitters. And that's why, according to FanDuel, 13 of the first drives since 2000 have ended in a punt. The only touchdown, Chicago Bears' Devin Hester on a kickoff return.
Dang. Well, let's go back to the touchdown theme. Let's keep going with it. So throughout the course of the game, which team do you guys think will score the longer touchdown? Let's start with you, Carter.
I think the Bengals have this one. They've got Jamar Chase, T. Higgins on the outside, and the Rams are prone to giving up big plays. They gave up a 55-yard pass to Tom Brady in the divisional round, and they also gave up 40-yard passes to Jimmy Garoppolo in the NFC Championship game. I think the Bengals are reliant on big plays. Give me the Bengals on this one.
I totally agree. I think the Bengals too. I think Joe Burrow's the quarterback I'd rather have. I trust him throwing the deep ball. Matthew Stafford tried to throw a deep ball in the NFC Championship game, and that was a lame duck that should have been intercepted. It was almost like a punt. I trust Burrow taking the top off with, like you said, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Even Tyler Boyd has had a couple of big touchdowns this year. I'm going Bengals with the longer touchdown.
I also agree with Bengals. The past couple weeks, Jamar Chase has been, I don't want to say quiet, but whenever he doesn't, touch the ball very often, but when he does, it's those big plays. And so I think that's, you saw against the Chiefs at home, when the Bengals play the Chiefs at their home in the regular season, how the end of the game, all those huge Burrow Chase receptions. And so I think that's going to be replicated here again.
Let's go over to the Rams now. I know we all go Bengals on that one. How about the Rams star player Cooper Kupp? Does he hit over or under 106.5 receiving yards? Olivia, what do you think?
I think under, only because I think that he's going to be double teamed the entire game.
I think that's a great pick. I'm going under as well. The Bengals shut down Tyreek Hill in the second half of the AFC Championship game. He had, I think, 78 receiving yards in the first half. Didn't have a single catch after halftime. I think Cooper Kupp's going to have a day. I think he'll have 80, 90, 100 yards. I think 106.5 is a lot with the way the Bengals were able to shut down Tyreek Hill, so I'm going to hit the under on that one as well.
I'm going to differ from both of you on this one. 7 out of the last 9 games, Cooper Kupp has gotten over this number. In the postseason, he has 5 catches of 20-plus yards. He can pick him up in a hurry, and yards per catch this season is at 15.4 yards. Give me the over on this one.
Let's go now to the Bengals, maybe star player, Joe Burrow. Does he hit over or under 276.5 passing yards? Carter, what do you think?
I'm going to have to go with the under on this one. I know everyone's got Joe Burrow fever right now, but the fact of the matter is that Joe Burrow has played great, but he hasn't put up astronomical numbers in this postseason. He's got a 4-2 touchdown to interception ratio, and he's only hit over this out of 3 games of this total that's on right now. I think he's going to have 1 or 2 big plays, which is why the Bengals are going to get the longest touchdown. But I think over the course of the game, Jalen Ramsey, that Rams secondary is going to be too much.
I'm going to disagree. I'm going to say not so fast. I'm going to go over. I think the Rams are going to win the battle in the trenches. I think that could spell trouble for Joe Mixon in the running game. I think Joe Burrow, especially if the Bengals get behind, is going to have to throw the ball a lot. That 1 in 3 games makes me nervous. He only threw for 250 last time out against the Chiefs. But I think if the Bengals struggle to run the ball, which I think they might with the Rams' defensive line power, and they might turn to Joe Burrow a little bit more, and I think he can get over that 276-yard mark. Olivia, what do you think?
So here's where it gets tricky for me, because do I think the Rams will win the battle of the trenches? Yes. The issue with that is that if they're not winning the battle of the trenches, that means the line has to hold long enough for Joe Burrow to throw big plays. And so I think that Joe Burrow, in order to win this game, he's going to have a big game. Will he need to have that big of a game? No, because he's won without doing it. But I think he's going to have a big game. I'm saying about 250, maybe. I think that the way Joe Burrow will win this game, though, is going to be quick, short passes. To say that to have the game that gets you 277 yards is going to have to be several long throws, and I just don't think that the line can hold them long enough for that to happen.
Yeah, you kind of are hitting, you had 250 against the Chiefs, so you're kind of hitting right around that mark with your prediction. It'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. This one was an interesting one. This one seems maybe easier than it might be. It says both teams to make a 33-plus yard field goal, yes or no. But the interesting thing is that number has only been hit in 15 out of the 55 Super Bowls. So, Carter, what do you think? Will both teams make a field goal of over 33 yards?
Well, you don't make it to the Super Bowl unless you have a great special teams. And the Bengals, Evan McPherson, is 12 for 12 this playoffs on field goals. And the Rams, Matt Gay, has made a Pro Bowl this year. Both these kickers are rock solid. Yes, I think both of these kickers will make a 33-plus yard field goal.
Fully agree. Offenses are going to be going. Great kickers on both sides. I agree with Carter.
I think if you would have said, can both teams make a 50-yard field goal, I think that my answer still would have been yes.
You can go get some money on that. I'm sure you can get pretty good odds on that.
Maybe, but I think they're both good. They're both great kickers, and if any position the entire postseason has shown up, it has been the kickers for every single team.
How about that divisional round? It was kicker after kicker after kicker.
Exactly. So I think that for all of these guys, both these kickers are looking at this being like, well, duh. So they're like, it's insulting if you think I can't hit that. So that's just my prediction.
There we go. Time for our final prop bet. I know we talked a lot about the battle, the offenses, the defenses. So who's going to rule the day? Will it be offense or defense? Over, under 48.5 points. Olivia, what do you think?
Oh, for sure over. I think that it's going to be a high-scoring game, I think, in the end. Both of these teams have great defenses, but I think that it is going to be a battle of the offenses. And, 48 points, that's essentially what, in a 20s matchup? And that's 3 touchdowns for each team. It's going to be over.
Yeah, that's what makes me. I'm going to say over. I do have a little bit of flashbacks to the last time the Rams were in the Super Bowl against the Patriots, where it was going to be shootout, and I think it was 13-3. Yeah. So a little bit of flashback to that, but I agree with Olivia. I think both offenses are great. I think, the defenses are going to have their moments in this game, but I think Joe Burrow and Matthew Stafford, with the weapons especially Stafford has around him with OBJ and Cooper Kupp, I think it's a higher scoring game. I think we get above 48.5 points.
I think Sean McVay has learned from his past mistakes in the previous Super Bowl. He admitted he overcoached and he might have prepared almost too much. I know that sounds a little bit of not right to say, but he might have prepared a little too much. I think that Sean McVay, like I said, has learned from it. And look, you're going to be riding this all game. I think it's going to be looking under. In the fourth quarter, both teams are going to explode, and it's going to be a tight game at the end.
Yeah, it should be a good one. Who do we think will win? You will have to stay tuned after this commercial break. When we come back, we will give our predictions for the Super Bowl, and then we'll shoot it over to the rest of the TSTV sports members and see what they're thinking for this year's Super Bowl. Don't go anywhere. You're watching the 1-0 Sports Show. For the final time this morning, welcome back into the 1-0 Sports Show. And y'all, it's time for the moment we've all been waiting for. It's time to make our Super Bowl predictions. Olivia, let's start with you. Who do you think is going to take it all on Sunday?
Well, from what I've been saying all show, it should be no surprise that I am rooting for the Bengals. Joe Burrow is the guy. He's been the guy since he was at LSU. The guy has not lost a playoff game in his collegiate or professional career. And so he's on a roll. I don't know, I just really have a deep feeling that this is their year. And, not that it's not the Rams year, but I just think that the country's rooting behind the Bengals. Everyone loves Joe Burrow. He has a different kind of swagger that he carries himself than any other quarterback I've seen. He just is so cool. I mean, he's cool. He's a cool dude, and he carries himself that way on and off the field. And I think that swagger is a winning attitude.
I think that's a great pick. I'm going to go Bengals too. I think, Olivia, you kind of said it. This just feels like it's their year. I mean, they've knocked off the Titans. They've knocked off the Chiefs. They come up with huge wins in back-to-back weeks leading into this game. And I just look at the quarterback position. I would rather have Joe Burrow. I think he can make more plays than Matthew Stafford. I just keep flashing back to that. I mean, it was that lame duck that you talked about on press box where Stafford threw it and Tart should have picked it off for the 49ers. I just think Joe Burrow can make plays. I think he's going to have to be mobile. I think there's going to be times where he's going to have to get outside the pocket because of the Rams' pass rush. But I think Burrow can make more plays and keep the Bengals offense in it. I think it's going to be a higher scoring game. I'm going to say Cincinnati 31, Rams 26. That's going to be my prediction. I think Bengals win the first Super Bowl in a long time for that franchise.
I agree with you that I think it's going to be a close game. And the Bengals at plus 4.5 scares me. That half point really scares me. But I have to differ from both of you and go with the Rams on this one. Look, the Rams have absolutely sold out for this team and this year to win the Super Bowl. They have brought in Matthew Stafford. They have brought in Jalen Ramsey. They have brought in Von Miller. They have fire-sold all of their draft picks and draft capital. They are trying to manufacture a Super Bowl, and to hell with the future years. The Bengals, they ain't got their quarterback of the future in a long time. They got their quarterback of the future, but this is Matt Stafford's time. Give me the Rams in this one and give me Sean McVay.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that, Carter. I think the Rams' window is closing. I think they'll definitely feel that urgency. Bengals, actually, I made a mistake. They're going for their first Super Bowl ever. They haven't been in the Super Bowl since 1988, but they didn't win that year. So can the Bengals get their first Super Bowl, or will Carter be right with the Rams? Let's see what the rest of the TSTV sports members think. Here are their predictions.
Hey y'all, this is Jordan Galehood, and I'm actually in LA right now. I'm going full LA mode, and so I think that's going to reflect in my pick. I'm picking the Los Angeles Rams to win, and you know what? I'm gonna say Aaron Donald as Super Bowl MVP. I think he has a huge defensive game up front, but I think that it's their time. I think they got a lot of guys on that roster who really are long overdue for a ring. I think they're gonna get it done this year.
Ouch, that one hurt. Joe Burrow just led his team to the Super Bowl. I did not see that one coming. That team is hot right now with a lot of firepower on offense. T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, even Joe Mixon gets forgotten about. However, simply, it's the Rams season this year. Matt Stafford is going to get a Super Bowl. He is going to get locked in the Hall of Fame. You have this boy, Aaron Donald. Playoff and Super Bowl Von Miller is a menace to society. It is going to be a simple Rams victory in the Super Bowl. I'm predicting 24-17 Rams.
Hey y'all, Emily here with my Super Bowl 56 prediction. While I do think both teams are great and that it's going to be a really fun and exciting game, I am going to have to choose the underdogs here and say the Bengals are going to win it all 24-21. I think the Bengals just have a really good, well-balanced offense and defense, and who knows, McPherson might even come through with the game-winning field goal. We'll just have to wait and see.
So for my Super Bowl prediction, I have the Los Angeles Rams defeating the Cincinnati Bengals by the score of 28-17. I think that the Rams are going to rule the trenches. Aaron Donald is going to have a big game against the Bengals offensive line. I also think that there are some significant mismatches with the Rams wide receivers and the Bengals secondary not looking too good. So that's why I'm going to take the Rams. Obviously, the heart goes with the Bengals. Got to roll with the brain here. Rams 28-17.
Yo, it's your favorite Crossfire guest, participant, Evan here. And you know what? I always got the good takes, always coming up with the fire takes. Here's a new one, Super Bowl prediction. The Rams will take it all. I called it a few weeks ago, and by a few I think I mean like 7, that the Rams were the team to beat the NFC, and I gotta back it up. I think every player that the Bengals got, Rams got someone better. I'm guessing a 34-24 scoreline win in LA for the Rams.
Hello, Samantha here. We got the homies. My pick for the Super Bowl are the Bengals. Joe Burrow, he's going to bring home the trophy.
Hey, what's up? 1-0 Sports Show on TSTV Twitter. I'm here with the TSTV Sports crew. And my pick for the 2022 Super Bowl, it's AFC North dominance. Give me the Bengals. I want to see Joe Burrow light up the biggest cigar known to man, put Winston Churchill out of business, head to Disney World, dunk on Mickey Mouse. You heard it here from John Kelly. See you on the other side.
You know who's winning this Super Bowl? Whoever has the ball last, because both of these teams are similarly built in terms of their roster and playing really well right now. The Bengals have Jamar Chase. The Rams have Cooper Kupp. The Rams have Aaron Donald. The Bengals have Trey Hendrickson. Sean McVay is one of the best coaches in the NFL, but Joe Burrow has that signature swagger. I don't know who to pick. They're both so evenly matched and playing so well. It's going to be one of the greatest Super Bowls of all time, hopefully.
Well, if my math is correct, I believe that puts TSTV Sports at a 5.5 to 5.5 split. So even we can't decide who's going to win this Super Bowl. We got a split panel here, and we've got a split volunteer group as well. But for the 1-0 Sports Show, that is going to do it for us today. Make sure you tune in next week at 10 a.m. We'll have the Super Bowl recap and everything else that's gone on in the week after, including a couple big Texas basketball games. And be sure to check out our sister shows, College Press Box, which airs Monday nights at 9:30, and College Crossfire, hosted by Drew Jacob on Wednesday nights at 9. For Olivia and Carter, we got Robert and John running things behind the scenes. Edley here in studio helping us out. Big thanks to Christina Huang for joining us today. For all those, I'm Adam Ogburn. Have a great rest of your day and enjoy the Super Bowl this weekend.